On a cold November morning in 2016, in the quiet suburbs of Chicago, a man driving home stumbled upon a sight that would haunt him forever: a body, cut into pieces, with no head and no limbs, lying at the edge of a dark, isolated valley. What seemed like a simple discovery soon spiraled into a nightmare that would shock even the most seasoned detectives. As the investigation unfolded, the police uncovered a tiny receipt, an ordinary slip of paper that would lead them down a twisted path of deception, murder, and betrayal. The suspect? A young, seemingly innocent woman, adored by friends and family, whose life appeared perfect on the outside. But behind closed doors, secrets festered, lies multiplied, and a shocking truth waited to be revealed. What drove her to commit such a monstrous act? And how far would someone go to hide the evidence of a crime that defied logic? Brace yourself for a chilling story of obsession, murder, and the darkness that can lurk behind the most ordinary faces. It was November 24, 2016, in the quiet suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, a place normally filled with calm streets, small farms, and the occasional wandering deer. But on that cold, gray morning, something unimaginable was about to shatter the peace. Joe Roche, the deputy police chief of Sangamon, was at home when an urgent call came through. A body had been discovered in a remote, shadowy area near the edge of a valley. The details were scarce, but the words were enough to send a chill down his spine. He quickly mobilized a team of officers, and they drove through the foggy, deserted roads, each mile adding to the tense anticipation. By the time they reached the site, the sun had barely risen, casting long, eerie shadows across the valley floor. What awaited them was beyond anything they could have imagined: a torso, dismembered with surgical precision, the head and limbs completely removed. The scene was meticulously staged to hide the victim's identity, and the officers, even the most experienced among them, were shaken to their core. The peaceful valley, usually a haven of nature and tranquility, had been transformed into a nightmare, a grim stage for a crime so calculated that it seemed almost impossible to comprehend. As the detectives carefully examined the scene, they quickly realized how meticulously the crime had been carried out. There were no fingerprints, no weapon, no footprints, and no immediate signs pointing to the perpetrator, only a chilling emptiness surrounding the body. Yet, amidst the desolation, one small clue caught their attention: a crumpled receipt lying a few steps away from the torso. At first glance, it seemed insignificant, something one might overlook in any ordinary setting. But detectives knew better. Every tiny detail could be a thread leading them through the darkness of this mystery. The receipt revealed the exact store, date, time, and even the items purchased. Following this fragile lead, they traced it back to a young woman named Latasha Denton, a 22-year-old university student new to the area, well-liked and with no criminal record. Her purchase, a seemingly ordinary chainsaw, suddenly took on a sinister significance in the context of the horrific scene. Surveillance footage confirmed her presence at the store, and the details linked her to the first tangible clue in a case otherwise shrouded in darkness. The detectives began to realize that the crime had not just been violent, it had been deliberate, methodical, and calculated, and someone seemingly ordinary was now at the center of a mystery that would soon reveal layers of horror beyond imagination. As the investigation continued, the detectives found themselves navigating a maze of small clues and unsettling omissions, each one deepening the growing sense of dread. Latasha Denton, outwardly a normal and disciplined young woman, moved through her daily life with remarkable composure, attending classes, socializing with friends, and attending church regularly. However, behind this seemingly ordinary routine, subtle hints of something sinister began to emerge. Discreetly collecting her trash, investigators discovered fragments of broken tiles, shredded documents, and torn pieces of bank cards, carefully hidden among ordinary household items. Among these scraps, they uncovered a partially destroyed ID card, which forensic experts painstakingly reconstructed to reveal the identity of the missing man, Norman Remiel Maxter, a 22-year-old National Guard member recently relocated to Springfield with his wife, Latasha. This discovery marked a turning point, linking the missing person directly to the pieces of evidence found in Latasha's daily life, and the detectives realized that the case was far more complex and disturbing than they had initially imagined. The meticulous reconstruction of Norman's ID and the analysis of Latasha's discarded trash painted a chilling picture of premeditation and calculated intent. Pieces of shredded documents, torn bank cards, and scraps of paper were carefully hidden among ordinary items, suggesting an effort to erase every trace of connection. DNA testing soon confirmed the grim reality. The dismembered torso discovered in the valley was indeed Norman's, yet the rest of his body remained missing. The detectives examined the crime scene in detail: the placement of the torso, smears of blood along the roadside barrier, and the wire wrapped around the shoulders, all pointing to a carefully orchestrated crime executed in a manner that concealed the killer's identity. The juxtaposition between Latasha's outwardly ordinary life and the horrifying implications of the evidence created a psychological puzzle that was as terrifying as the crime itself. Every seemingly minor detail, the crumpled receipt leading them to her, the chainsaw she had purchased, and the hidden fragments in her trash, served as a thread, gradually unraveling the horrifying reality that someone could commit such an act while maintaining the facade of a normal, even virtuous, life. The detectives were not just solving a murder, they were confronting the unnerving possibility of calculating evil hidden behind an ordinary exterior, forcing them to piece together a story that was as dark and twisted as the crime itself. After weeks of careful surveillance and evidence collection, the detectives reached the most critical stage of the investigation, observing Latasha Denton closely and preparing to confront her without raising suspicion. They understood that any overt pressure could make her destroy further evidence or change her behavior, so every move was planned meticulously. Arriving at her home under the guise of a routine check regarding a missing person, one officer engaged her in casual conversation while the other subtly inspected the surroundings, scanning for hidden items or clues. Latasha greeted them warmly, calm and composed, completely masking the dark secrets that were slowly being revealed. The detectives asked about her missing husband, Norman, framing the questions as routine inquiries rather than direct accusations. She spoke openly about his absence, attributing it to personal conflicts and social distractions, presenting herself as a concerned spouse. Meanwhile, the investigation continued quietly in the background. Forensic teams were analyzing the trash bags previously collected, finding small fragments of shredded documents, torn bank cards, and clothing items, including pieces of Norman's military uniform. Each discovery added to the growing sense of unease, hinting that the seemingly ordinary life Latasha presented was a carefully constructed facade hiding a chilling and methodical crime. With the interrogation complete and the evidence compiled, the case against Latasha Denton became undeniably strong. The detectives coordinated with the courts to formally charge her with first-degree murder, fully aware of the gravity of the situation and the intense public attention it would attract. Forensic analysis had confirmed the identity of Norman Maxter through DNA, reconstructing the shredded ID and fragmented documents, while the meticulous tracking of Latasha's trash, online searches, and surveillance footage had revealed a chilling level of premeditation. Even with all the proof assembled, some questions lingered. Where were the remaining parts of Norman's body? Why had Latasha committed such an unthinkable act? And what drove her to maintain such a flawless facade while orchestrating the crime in secret? The arrest was carried out carefully, ensuring minimal risk and preserving the integrity of the evidence. Latasha was taken into custody, visibly composed yet under the weight of the accumulating proof. As she was read her rights, the detectives reflected on the painstaking process that had brought them here, the countless hours of observation, forensic analysis, and subtle interrogation that had gradually unraveled the chilling narrative. The case sent shockwaves through the community. Norman, a young National Guard member praised for his character and dedication, had been brutally killed by someone he trusted implicitly, a reminder of how deceptive appearances can be. Family members were informed, and the heartbreaking reality of Norman's death struck especially hard on his father, who had to face the unimaginable truth about his son's fate. Even as grief and anger coursed through the family, the investigation highlighted the importance of thorough, methodical police work, the role of forensic science, and the painstaking attention to minute details that ultimately revealed the horrifying truth. The case concluded with a sobering lesson: sometimes, those closest to us, those who appear normal and virtuous, can harbor the darkest intentions. The tragedy underscored the fragility of trust, the devastating consequences of secrecy and deception, and the crucial need for vigilance, empathy, and understanding in relationships. As the courtroom proceedings moved forward, the community struggled to reconcile the image of the composed, loving Latasha with the terrifying reality of her actions, leaving an indelible mark on everyone involved. In the end, the investigation was not just about solving a crime, it was about uncovering the terrifying truth that evil can hide behind a perfectly ordinary exterior, waiting to emerge in the most shocking and unimaginable way.